Hi, I'm John Maxwell. When the top companies in the world are looking for trainers, speakers, and coaches, there's one name that stands above the rest, and that's Maxwell Leadership. Our certified team members have gotten proven results for companies all over the globe, and our reputation, I'm proud to say, is second to none. Some of our members have risen to the top of their profession, including the one you're going to meet today. I proudly introduce you to my friend Bob Fabian Zinka.
Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ, where we help you lead with purpose and succeed with impact. If you're ready to grow into the kind of leader others want to follow, this podcast is for you. If you're determined to elevate your success and leave a lasting legacy, this podcast is for you. As my mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell reminds us, everything rises and falls on leadership. Our goal is simple: to inspire you, challenge you, and equip you with insights that can transform the trajectory of your leadership journey. Welcome aboard to another episode of the Leadership and Success Podcast with Coach BZ.
Colonel Michael B. Black was born at the hospital on the campus of Tuskegee University in February 1963. 5 months later, his dad, Clinton Black, graduated with honors from the institute and was awarded a direct commission into the U.S. Army Signal Corps. Mike grew up as a textbook military brat as he transferred from school to school. He learned to speak Italian while attending the Italian Montessori School in Asmara, Ethiopia. Mike excelled in both academics and competitive team sports. That laid the foundation for leadership, teamwork, communications, and discipline. His dad was his primary inspiration to join the military, followed by his church, and finally by the Tuskegee Airmen. In 1981, he received a congressional appointment to the U.S. Air Force Academy from Congressman Jack Edwards, Alabama. Before departing for the academy, Mike visited the congressman in his office and received the following advice in a true Southern drawl. "Looky here, son, don't you let me or your daddy down." And Mike certainly did not. He was a distinguished military graduate. Mike followed his dad's footsteps by choosing the cyber and communications career field. Armed with his diploma, his commission, and new gold bars, Second Lieutenant Black was off to Keesler Air Force Base for basic communications officer training. Once again, Mike was a distinguished graduate and number one in his class. His early career was filled with opportunities to hone his technical, program management, and leadership skills. As commander of the 5th Combat Communications Squadron, Mike led 59 theater communications projects critical to CENTCOM's C-4 mission success. At Langley Air Force Base, he led the 27.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Leadership and Success Podcast. Do we have a very special episode for you today? As you know, this is our third broadcast of the day. And every time we meet, we call this moment of gratitude. We want to take just one moment to be grateful every single time we meet. As you know, part of the reason why we do this is because in the military, veteran and service member, about 21, 22 people commit suicide every single day. And we believe it's not possible to be suicidal and grateful at the very same time. So for today, I am really grateful to be a U.S. citizen. I believe it's the greatest country on earth. Not that it's perfect or anything, but something about our aspirational founding document, right? When they wrote, all men are created equal. I don't think that's really ever been said before. And since our creation is going to be 250 years now, we're going to celebrate that, but we've been trying to make that a reality for each and every resident and citizen of the United States of America. And I think there is just nothing like it. So grateful to be an American today. So let us know in the chat. Let us know where you are joining us from, and also what you're grateful for. And if you do have a question for our guest today, the Colonel, please type it in the comment. We will answer live. Okay, let me see if I can do a proper job introducing the Colonel. Really a man who doesn't need any introduction. What I would first ask you is, what does it take to lead in a no-fail mission environment where the stakes are global, the pressure is constant, and failure is not an option? Well, Colonel Michael Cheque the Mike Black is a distinguished U.S. Air Force colonel, retired, former commander of the White House Communication Agency, and current vice president of defense at AFCEA International. He led a 1,200-person joint force delivering secure, real-time communication to the president, vice president, and national leadership of the United States, supporting over 2,000 presidential missions. But beyond the title, Colonel Black is a mentor, a connector, and a servant leader who believes that leadership is about people, not position. And I hope what you're going to learn today is the 5 F's of leadership: family, fitness, mission, fairness, and fun. All right, without any further ado, please help me welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast, Colonel Michael Black. All right, good afternoon, Colonel. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, BZ. How are you?
Great. Just to get started, sir, what is one thing you are grateful for today?
Well, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful to be able to wake up today. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for a lot of things. Just thank the good Lord for the opportunity to wake up another day.
That is so powerful. Is there something about you, sir, that most people may not know when they first meet you?
I think once people get to know me, they understand that I'm a person about people and about my network of folks, and that's important. And you might not recognize somebody's superpower right away, but my superpower is my network and my connections and my relationship. And as you get to know me, you'll understand that. You may not recognize that right away.
Now, something you've said before is leadership did not start when you put on the uniform. It started with your family. Can you tell us more about that, sir? Can you unpack that for us?
Oh, sure. My father, Colonel Clinton James Black, United States Army, was my inspiration. And he went to Tuskegee Institute, as it was called back then, 1963 graduate.
Wow.
Tuskegee. And so he laid the foundation. My grandparents, Billy and Owita Black, from a very small town in Alabama called Beatrice, Alabama. Today, the population is probably less than 120.
Wow.
they raised 7 kids, 6 of which went to Tuskegee. My dad was one of the 3 youngest of the 7. So my grandparents went and visited Tuskegee. Tuskegee Institute, as it was called back then, and saw the statue of lifting the veil of ignorance, and decided that's where they wanted their kids to go. And so they made a way for the 3 oldest to go, and they assigned. And that's the key word, is assigned. Okay, when you get assigned something, that's a task. You get told to do something, you've got to complete that task. So the 3 oldest were assigned one of the 3 youngest. And their responsibility was to make sure that not only they graduated, the 3 oldest, but the 3 youngest. My dad, as I said, was the oldest of the 3 youngest. And so he was assigned to Aunt Velma. And Aunt Velma was responsible for getting him to complete college. Now, I learned of this as I was growing up. And as I reflect back on it now, I really see the power there and the vision that my grandparents, Billy and Owita Black, had for that. Grandfather was a farmer, and grandmother was the Avon lady. Sold Avon in the small towns there in Beatrice, Alabama, just north of Mobile. And so getting to witness that, seeing the example that my dad set, growing up, being a military brat, moving around and learning and witnessing what he accomplished, the foundation for me.
That is really, really powerful. So how did your upbringing, sir, kind of shape the leader we see today?
How did my upbringing shape that? Yes. Yeah. So I moved around as a military brat quite a bit. And so got to go to new places and always the new kid on the block. And you can see from the slide that's up there now, I've been to a lot of places. There's even more that was created. But, actually even lived in Ethiopia, which the part of Ethiopia that I lived in is now called Eritrea. There's 2 countries that were separated by a war. But 5 years old, living in Ethiopia. The emperor of Ethiopia, many might know, was Haile Selassie. At that time, he was still alive. And I was able to actually witness Haile Selassie coming on base, Cagnew Station.
Wow.
Station. My mom, also a college graduate, went to Alabama A&M, said that I was going to go to school, even though I wasn't old enough to go to school on base because my birthday was in February. And so my mom sent me to an Italian Montessori school. And I had to speak Italian at that as a 5-year-old. Our maid, Mabret, which means light, she could speak about 6 languages, to include Italian. As you probably know, there's a lot of European influence in Africa. And in East Africa, the Italian influence was prominent in Ethiopia. And so I went to an Italian school, learned Italian. Mabret and I would speak Italian at the breakfast table, and my mom would have no idea what we're talking about.
Wow, that is really, really powerful. So growing up as a military brat and living overseas, really adapting constantly, how did being the new kid prepare you to lead diverse team at the highest level later in life?
Well, as you know, moving around, going to different schools, being the new kid, trying to be accepted at all these locations, I got a lot of practice in introducing myself and meeting new folks and fitting in and sharing, what I brought to the table to my new environment. That happened a lot when I was in elementary school. Moved around, sometimes at 1 year stint locations when my dad was at a school, sometimes 2 years for a permanent change of station, but a lot of moving around until I got into high school.
Wow.
And so that aspect of meeting people, learning how to meet people, learning how to fit in, learning how to adapt, ultimately prepared me for, what my path was later on in life. As I say, my steps are ordered. At the time I was 5 years old at in Ethiopia. I didn't know that later on I would be doing something very similar to what my dad did, just in
Yes.
another branch of service. And so moving
Wow.
around, me and my sisters. I have two younger sisters, Michelle and Marcia Black. They are 4 and 5 years younger than me, respectively. So we moved all around. They experienced the same thing, and both of them are very successful today as well.
So before leading airmen, you really learn how to connect with people all around the world. What does connection look like in today's fast-paced, artificial intelligence-driven world?
So I think connection really, when you connect with somebody, you know them, you understand them, you
Mm,
experience some of the same things that they've experienced. But I think connection and relationships are like the key to success, and getting to know your audience, if you will, your organization, your
mm,
partners, your clients, your colleagues, your other teammates. All of that is important in life, and that foundation of moving around and
yes.
experiencing that as a young adolescent ultimately prepared me,
Mm,
for that today. And little did I know, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about this, but where
yes.
I'm at today, at a nonprofit organization, AFCEA International, where we bring together government, industry, and academia.
Mm,
A large part of what I do involves my relationships and who I know, and bringing together those folks. And
yes.
in general sense, people want to do business with people that they know and trust. And
That's so
so you
true.
build those relationships over a period of time. People get to know you and trust you.
That is so true. Of course, the three C's of leadership I've learned in the Navy is competence, character, and connection. And connection is definitely key if you want to make a career out of it. Now, one of my mentors taught me is that rank is rented, but trust is earned. Something that you said a lot, sir, is leadership is responsibility, not rank. Can you unpack that for us, and kind of when did that click for you?
Right. And so, I mean, in the military, and you know this, and probably some of our audience, I saw that Dr.
Yes.
Xavier Bruce was on here. A colleague of mine also went to the academy. So you have this rank that you have as you move on up into into your career field and that kind of thing.
Yes.
But rank is just that. It's something that you have on your shoulders, on your
Mm,
chest, and that kind of thing. And of course, with rank, you do get more responsibility,
yes.
and that kind of thing. But trust, leaders earn that trust by showing that they care and that they take care of the people that are actually executing the mission. And in
Mm-hmm.
many cases, and I think we'll get into this a little bit later, but the non-commissioned officers, the enlisted force, that
Yes.
is the backbone of the military, and specifically for me, the backbone of the Air Force. And then I had the pleasure of serving in a couple of joint assignments, and so we had Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, Space Force, government,
Mm,
civilians, and contractors. All of that bring that to the table, but you earn that trust and that respect as a leader.
yes.
I have had the opportunity to command 3 different times, 2 squadrons, a combat
Mm,
communication squadron, and then a large communication squadron at Langley Air Force Base, and then what is now Wing Command equivalent for the Air Force, the White House Communications Agency. And
wow.
each time I was a leader, I built upon everything that had happened to me in the past, both my time in the Air Force, coming in the Air Force 22 June 1981,
Wow.
entering the Air Force Academy, all the way up until the end of 2011 at the White House Communications Agency.
That is really amazing. Now, one thing for sure, sir, you are quite a reader. You studied and applied powerful leadership books, including The Purpose Driven Life by Pastor Rick Warren and Intrusive Leadership by Captain Kennedy. Actually, he was on the podcast too.
Yes.
What separates leaders who read from leaders who actually apply? Not just read, but they apply
Yes,
what they
I,
learn.
I think you said it there. That's what separates. I mean, we both have a lot of books in our
Yes.
background, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't read each one of these titles, from front to back, but I have read parts of every book that I have on my bookshelf and many others. And for me, the leadership that I read about, or the actions that I read about in these books, I'm able to apply into my actions,
Yes.
and really shorten the learning curve. But applying that leadership, I mean, you can learn things. We go to school, we learn, we take tests, and we show that we're competent and that
Yes.
kind of thing. But actually applying that to your organization, to your small team, to your large team, it's really, really
Mm.
important. And so leaders do read a lot, but leaders also apply what they learn.
Yes. Wow. I guess it does really make a difference to live out those leadership principles, because in my opinion, it looks like all the branches of the military, we are really like a truly a leadership organization. We just happen to have a bunch of hardware, and it's at every level, at every rank, really. Even when I joined the Navy as an E1 21 years ago as a seaman recruit, I felt like the Navy expected me to lead, if not a team myself.
Right.
It was embedded in the way we did boot camp and training, and all the way up to my first station. Why do you think leadership is so important, critical, especially now in this age of artificial intelligence?
Well, people are part of an organization, and they do expect the leader of the organization to take care of the organization, provide that vision,
Yes.
that guidance, that direction, to achieve success, to accomplish the mission. I want to rewind just a minute, because you specifically mentioned the purpose-driven life and intrusive leadership. And let me just say something about the purpose-driven life. Thank you for putting that up there, Pastor Rick Warren, and the purpose-driven life. I take a yoga class, participate in a yoga class every morning for about the past 5 years. And you can see me doing the yoga down there in that caricature that AI created for me. And we'll talk a little bit more about AI and all of that. But that Christ Moves Now leadership or yoga class that I take, we read a chapter, summarize a chapter in that purpose-driven life book every single day. And we've been doing this for 5+ years. There's now 42 chapters in that book. And if you do the math, I'm not going to do all the public math, but 42 chapters. You have 5 years, 365 days. So 365 times, times 5, and then divide that by 42. It comes around to I believe 43 point something. Plus or minus. And so I've read that book that many times.
43.45 times.
Yes, thank you. So my public math wasn't too bad. My mom will be proud of me and being able to execute that. But that book, it talks about what is your purpose in life.
Yes.
And after reading that book, I was able to really validate what I believe my purpose in life is. And I believe that I'm a connector. You mentioned earlier, Colonel Connector, as some people call me. But my purpose in life is that I'm a connector. And over reading that book, 43 times, and understanding what Pastor Rick Warren is asking us to get out of that book, it has really helped me and shaped me. And that word shape is written in that book many times. In the military, we have a lot of acronyms. So shape is an acronym in that book, where it talks about your spiritual gifts. That's the S. Your heart. That's the H. Your abilities. That's the A. Your personality. That's the P. And your experiences. And so how am I shaped? I'm shaped by my spiritual gifts, I'm shaped by my heart. I'm shaped by my abilities. I am shaped by my personal experiences, and we described some of those as I was growing up and what I experienced, and then experiences. And so, as I understand my shape, I understand that my purpose in life is that I'm a connector, and I embrace that. All my steps have been ordered accordingly for me to do that. I'm also an intrinsic leader, and I follow that philosophy of my fraternity brother, proud Omega Psi Phi fraternity brother Marcus Kennedy, and his intrusive leadership. And intrusive leadership is simply being intentional, consistently, and personally engaged in the lives of your people, especially beyond mission tasking. So you know your people, you get involved early and often, you be present when it matters, you care enough to act, and you build that trust. We talked about trust through genuine investment. And so Marcus, Captain Kennedy, United States Coast Guard Academy graduate, presents that in this book. And I saw that you put the book up there, and I have it as well. Hey.
Yes, I have it here somewhere. I was just reading it earlier this morning, but I will find it. Very, very important book. Yes, because it looks like in the industry, that's not really the way they tend to lead. And I feel like it really makes a difference when you get to know your people, really know them and really care for them, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you take care of your people, and knowing your people. And one of my colleagues when I was at the White House Communications Agency, Dr. Jeff Coleman, who was the physician to the president, he said something one day that really, hit home with me about taking care of people. He says that taking care of people who take care of the president is taking care of the president. So, like, if you translate that, he's talking about, and that's the picture of me and my family with President Obama, and that was our departure photo.
My forever president.
Amen. And I had the opportunity to work for President Obama, and then my first 2 years I worked for President Bush, so 43 and 44. But getting back to that quote of taking care of your people, so taking care of the people who take care of the president is taking care of the president. And I preach that to my members of the White House Communications Agency, and letting them understand that, the 1,200 people that we had in the unit and the subordinate commands, if you take care of the people who take care of the president, you are taking care of the president. And you can apply that to any mission that you have. If you're taking care of the people, the three places that I worked at in the private sector before coming to AFCEA International, still had people to take care of. Taking care of those people help take care of the mission.
Wow. That is really powerful. Now, another thing you teach, Colonel, is you break leadership development into 3 roles: coach, mentor, and sponsor. What's the difference?
So I grew up playing a lot of sports. You showed that one picture of me in my baseball uniform and all that. But baseball, basketball, football. So a coach is somebody who's going to teach you how to have proper form in your shooting and follow through your shot if it's basketball. A mentor is, in my mind, somebody who's been there and done that, and it's going to teach you that and really shorten the learning curve. But the sponsor is somebody who is going to give you access, and somebody who's going to speak on your behalf when you're not in the room. And I was fortunate enough to have a couple of different sponsors throughout my career. I can remember Lieutenant General retired Al Edmonds, United States Air Force, one of the pioneers in the communications career field. And I remember him sitting me down when I was getting ready to take command of the White House Communications Agency. We went to a restaurant called Mike's American Grill. My name is Mike, so you get that there's a little bit of we're going to get to some double and triple entendres here. So Mike Black goes to Mike's American Grill with General Edmonds and his son-in-law, Rob Holder, who's retired lieutenant colonel I was stationed with at CENTCOM. And he tells me when we get ready to leave, he says, "Hey, He used to be the commander or the director of the Defense Information Systems Agency, which the White House Communications Agency is administratively assigned. So he knew about my mission that I was about to go to. He says, Mike, I need you to check the mic. And I said, yes, sir, check the mic. And you see the podium behind me, check the mic in the podium and make sure the mic is, yes, there you go. Check the mic. Now make sure that the microphone is on when it's supposed to be on and off when it's supposed to be off. And he said that, 4 or 5 times. And I'm like, yes, sir, I got it. And the final time he said it, he put a little adjective or modifier on it, an explicive, and said, check and you put in the word, the mic. And so what he was talking about was, something simple, but it's something that I lived by while I was at the White House Communications Agency. We need to make sure that microphone was on when the president stepped up to the podium, and made sure it was off when it was supposed to be off. And so, he's a sponsor for me. My other sponsor that I can think of is Major General retired John Maluda, United States Air Force. And I had the opportunity to meet him when I was on the air staff, and then was staying with him at Langley Air Force Base. He's a person that opened doors and had a vision for me to compete to be the deputy commander of the White House Communications Agency after my time at Langley and after my time at War College, and then ultimately compete to be the commander. But he didn't reveal all of that to me, when we went down to Langley Air Force Base, and he was the Air Combat Command A6, and I was the first comm squadron commander, first comm, he's first. And so his plan, he executed that to a T, and he revealed it to me at the time that I needed to know what the plan was. But that sponsor is the one who gave me access and gave me the opportunity to compete. So we need a coach. You need a mentor. You need a sponsor. You may not know who your sponsor is. They may not reveal that to you. Fortunately for me, it was revealed to me that those folks and others were sponsors who gave me access. They're going to speak on your behalf. They spoke on my behalf when I wasn't in the room. So that's the coach, mentor, and sponsor. You need all 3 of those to be successful. And some people are just coaches. They may not be your mentor. Some people can be your coach and your mentor, and some can be all 3. Your sponsor may not be your coach or your mentor. It may be his or her role just to give you access.
Wow, that is so powerful. And one of my favorite quotes of yours, sir, you say a mentor talks with you, but a sponsor talks about you.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about the times, and I know you can relate to this, when you were mentoring and people were mentoring you. Yes, they're talking to you, but that sponsor is talking about you. And I have no idea the things that both the sponsors that I mentioned, the things that they said when I wasn't in the room. But I know they said some good things because of the opportunities that I had based upon what they said. And to this day, I'm still in touch with those mentors and those sponsors, particularly the 2 that I just mentioned. I've talked to both of them within probably the last week.
That is really amazing. Now, I know another thing that you highly value, sir, is the enlisted force. I've highlighted the critical role of senior NCOs, non-commissioned officers, in your own journey. What did they teach you about leadership that no officer school could? And just for those who are not in the military, NCOs are senior enlisted. So as an officer, even as an O1, technically you are above them. But the truth is they truly outrank you because they have all of the experience, all of the knowledge, and they are still mentoring you as a junior officer.
No, absolutely. Critical to my success, critical a part of my career is the non-commissioned officer. And as I think about a non-commissioned officer, I'm reminded of really the senior non-commissioned officer at every assignment that I had. And if I go back to my 12 assignments, 13 assignments, I can think about the senior non-commissioned officer, whether it was Senior Master Sergeant Earl Glover when I was at Cheyenne Mountain, all the way to Command Sergeant Major Gerald Williams or Command Sergeant Major Willie Clemens, and everybody in between. Those 2 were at my last assignment at the White House Communications Agency. But I can tell you that those NCOs, those senior NCOs, taught me the value of the NCOs, the folks that are doing the heavy lifting
Yes.
and conducting the mission. And they help me understand how to give the people the tools, the resources, and the environment to be successful in the job. They take my time at the 1st Communication Squadron at Langley Air Force Base. My superintendent was a gentleman by the name of Chief Master Sergeant Mick Johnson. Mick has passed away. Rest in peace, Nick. Nick was my superintendent, and he was tasked with helping me get those nearly 500 people to be successful at Langley Air Force Base when we were ushering in a new weapon system, the F-22. When we went IOC, or initial operating capability, on our watch. And so I had 5 chief master sergeants in my unit, but the superintendent was Mick Johnson. I had a bonus because Mick Johnson's wife, Toya, was on the base, and she worked at the higher headquarters, but she came to a lot of our functions. I also had a first sergeant, a senior master sergeant, Dwayne Hillard, who was my right hand, my battle buddy, and we successfully put that unit together and accomplished the mission. And I just want to highlight, if there's any First Com folks that are on here, what I like to say is that First Com, we won everything. We were big men on campus. We won all the intramurals. We won all of the or many of the awards on the base. I mean, at one time I had the #1 senior NCO in the wing, the #1 company grade officer, the #1 field grade officer.
Wow.
The #2 first sergeant. This is out of 20 squadrons and a very large wing, and then the #1 squadron commander. Over the course of 2 years, at some point in time we had those, as well as base championships. So we were big man on campus. We were
That's
bad.
Amazing.
But it was those NCOs that were getting the work done, the mission done, whether it was global war on terrorism that we were doing, whether it was hurricane restoration, whether it was taking care of the 18 general officers that were on that base, 200 colonels, and 250 chief master sergeants. So we had a lot of senior folks on there.
Yes.
And I rarely, if any, got a call and said, "Hey, Mike Black, thanks for the dial tone. Thank you for the internet access." But let there be a problem with that, you're going to get a call. But we have very few calls like that because of the mission that the NCOs were doing. And that Mick Johnson and Senior Master Sergeant Dwayne Hillard were the ones that were key to that. And all through my career, whether it was Chief Master Sergeant Carl Abernathy at the 5th Mob, he was dual-hatted as a superintendent as well as a first sergeant. Whether it was Wayne Boger when I was overseas, and Chief Master Sergeant Wayne Boger when I was overseas in England, to Master Sergeant Walt Van Allen when I was at 2152nd Com Squadron, and it can go on and on. Jesse Green when I was Chief Master Jesse Green when I was at the IG team, and many others. But they are, where the rubber meets the road, the NCOs were key to it, and those senior NCOs, my battle buddies, and in the Joint Environment, Command Sergeant Major Gerald Williams and Command Sergeant Major Willie Clemens, they are the ones that helped and guaranteed mission success and taught me what the NCOs brought to the table.
That is really, really powerful. I know when you are an officer, you are expected to be a leader. I remember when I was an IT3 E4 at the time, and one of the people who interviewed me for the commissioning program, Captain Rothschild, who became my sea daddy, one thing he told me is, "Hey, as an officer, you know how in real estate it's all about location, location, location. As an officer, it's all about leadership, leadership, leadership." But the truth is, we really value leadership at the deck plate level in all of the branches of the military, even for our junior enlisted. Why is that so important? Because most of the militaries around the world, they only focus on leadership for their officers, not even their senior enlisted. Why is that so critical for us here in the US to
and I'm obviously biased because I'm
Yes.
U.S. military, but we have the best force, out there, and you can see that.
Hoorah!
Yes, you can see that hoo and hoorah, and go Air Force. But you can see that in the way that we accomplish the mission on a daily basis.
True.
And whether you're at a headquarters executing a mission, or whether you're in a unit, part of an element, or part of a squadron, or whether you're at higher headquarters, whether it's a combatant command like Central Command where I was stationed, or the headquarters at the Pentagon. The common ingredient is the NCOs that are there executing,
Yes.
the mission, and getting things done. I mean, when I was at the White House Communications Agency, roughly 1,200 people, only 67 officers, if you count the warrant officers as well, and we do count them and what they bring to the table. 67 officers. The rest were enlisted, and at that time, just a few civilians and contractors that were there. But the bulk of the work was being done by the NCOs, and they are professionals in what they do, the training that they get, and they get the job done. And so it was my job to give them the tools, the resources, and the environment to be successful.
That is absolutely awesome. Now, another part of your leadership philosophy, sir, is relationship over everything. One of the powerful concepts I've heard from you is contacts versus contracts. Could you break it down for us, sir?
No, absolutely. I wish I was the one who invented that phrase. I picked it up along the way, but somebody asked me the difference between contacts and contracts, and those words are spelled almost identical. I mean, if you spell them out, the only difference is the R in contracts. Okay, and so your contacts can get you contracts.
Wow.
If you have the right relationship with your contacts. I'll say that one more time. Your contacts can get you contracts if you have the right relationship with your contacts. And we talked about relationships earlier and how important the relationships are. But not only the relationship, you have to cultivate that relationship. And this is where I go back and think about my grandfather, Billy Black, who was a farmer. And the crops that he had, he cultivated those crops so that they would grow. He nurtured those crops so that they would produce, so that they would produce the fruit, so that they would produce the vegetable and all that. But what he did is he learned, he knew how to till the soil. He knew crop rotation. He knew how to fertilize. He knew how to water if it wasn't enough rain. You have to do the same thing with your relationship. You have to cultivate that relationship. And I can think of many examples of cultivating the relationships and how they're important. And I talked about contract. It can be a contract doesn't necessarily have to be a contract as we might think of it today, a government contract or a contract with the state or local entity. I use it more to not as a cliche, but just as a symbol to talk about what relationships can do for you. But in the literal sense as well, when we start talking about contracts like government contracts or contracts for work, your relationships can get you contracts because people want to do business with the people that they know and trust. And so those relationships are key. And I think about this. I'll give you just a quick example. I was at the White House Communications Agency in 2007, and I was there from 2007 until 11. When I moved up to be to take command of the White House Communications Agency from the deputy, I had two bosses, if you will. I had Lieutenant General Carol Pollitt, who was the director of DISA, and then Rear Admiral Ray Spicer, who was the director of the White House Military Office. And so those are two bosses that I reported to, and I had an excellent relationship with both. You fast forward to now, I'm at the White House Communications Agency, and Admiral Spicer is the president and CEO of the United States Naval Institute. Well, we worked with the United States Naval Institute, USNI, on a big conference in San Diego called WEST. And, lo and behold, I have a relationship, and I nurtured that relationship over the years. Yes. And he comes and he's there. And so my president and CEO, Lieutenant General Susan Lawrence, United States Army, retired, a former CIO G6 of the United States Army. She appreciates that fact, that relationship that I have with Admiral Spicer, and so we're able to really utilize that to take things to the next level. And so you have to cultivate that relationship. You've seen this in cycles, I think, in the military. People that were at your first assignment, maybe or at your third assignment, and you've progressed on, and you're going to work together again, or somebody that you partnered with early on. But those relationships are huge and important. And it's not just in the military. I mean, the relationships that I cultivated while I was at the Industrial College of the Armed Forces, ICAF, or some of the relationships that I used in the private sector after I retired. Some of those same people that were my War College classmates are folks that I have worked with. I mean, today, we've announced who our next president and CEO is going to be later on this summer at AFCEA, Lieutenant General retired Bruce Crawford. Bruce was a classmate of mine at War College.
Wow.
So I'm not meeting my boss or my boss's boss for the first time, when he takes over in June. I will have already worked with him. We were classmates. We played on the basketball team together, even in a class or two together. So I know him, and those relationships are important.
Man, that is so insightful. Now, another component of your leadership philosophy is situational awareness and opportunity. One thing you've said is you talk about keeping your head on a swivel.
Yes,
Can
sir.
you unpack that for us, sir?
No, absolutely. I think if you think about keeping your head on a swivel, the image that comes to my mind is like maybe a bobblehead, where that head is moving all around and you see things. And for me, I always say, I keep my head on a swivel so that I don't miss my blessing. I don't want to miss what's going on. And so I'm trying to pay attention. It's not that I'm looking around because I'm paranoid and I want to know what's behind me or anything like that. I just don't want to miss my blessing. And so in that yoga class that I talked about, that Christ Moves Now yoga class, one of my mentors, who actually knows my father, Elder Michael Bowie, he loves to say what I say about having your head on a swivel. And so it's important to not miss your blessing, in that. And that's why I pay attention to see, so that I can add, what I'm witnessing, what I'm taking in, and add that to my toolbox, if you will. And so I keep my head on a swivel so that I don't miss my blessing, just so I can pay attention and see what's going on, gather that knowledge, and be able to use that, because you can be looking, and if your head's not on a swivel and you have blinders on, you're not going to see what's on your right or what's on your left. And that may be something that you need to get the job done. But if your head is on a swivel and you see all of that, you're going to be able to use it. And the way the good Lord works is sometimes he'll put it in your path a second time, a third time if you missed it. But I don't want to miss my blessing, because, I can do more by being blessed and by getting this information, and then get the next blessing, rather than have to be told once or twice about things. But I'm okay. I don't miss it. I'm thankful for putting something across my path a second time if I missed it, or it was a third time and it comes across. But I'm thankful for that. So that's what I mean about by keeping your head on a swivel.
That is a very powerful mindset to have. And talking about the Lord, part of your leadership philosophy, sir, is also faith, purpose, and resilience. You've spoken about faith and ordering your steps. How has faith guided your leadership decision, especially in times of uncertainty?
Yeah, and so as we mature, we get wiser and understand more and understand why certain things happen. And so, early in my career, when something didn't go the way that I thought it should go, I would get upset and ask, why me? Why is this happening this way? And I can think of a couple of, examples of, like when I the first time I came out on the command list as a young major and trying to get matched to a squadron, and I did not get matched to a squadron. I was, they were looking at me to go to Saudi Arabia, to ESCON, to ESCON Village, to command a comm squadron there, and I didn't get it. And I'm thinking, man, I was qualified. I came out on the list, and why didn't I get it?
Yes.
And then lo and behold, I go to intermediate service school, the Army Command and General Staff College, after an assignment at Central Command. I do want to also highlight another mentor and sponsor from my time at Central Command, Lieutenant General retired Harry Radigi, who was instrumental in me going to school and instrumental in me getting command. But the point I'm making is I thought I should go to command, and lo and behold, I don't go to command. I go to school, and then I go to combat comm, which is a premier job in the communications group.
Yes.
Many people want to be a combat comm squadron commander, and so I went to the 5th Mob at Robbins Air Force Base to command. So that's a time where I thought I should have gone to command early, and I didn't, and I got combat comm, and I probably would not have gotten combat comm if I had gone to that command early.
Wow.
Second is after commanding at combat comm, I was thinking, I need to go joint, and joint staff is where I should go. And I did not get the joint staff. I got the air staff. And I tell you, BZ, I was inside. I was hotter than a firecracker. I'm like, man, I did so well here. And why isn't the Air Force sending me to the joint staff to get my credit, to check that box of a joint JSO, Joint Specialty Officer, and all that? Well, lo and behold, I go to the air staff, and I get assigned in what was known as ILC. Back then, and I work for two general officers there, and I get picked up for going to command at Langley Air Force Base after being there 2 years. Now, if I'd gone to the joint staff, I was supposed to be there for 3 years, and so I probably would not have gotten picked up for one of the largest and the premier communication squadrons in the Air Force.
Wow.
And, thinking, how my steps were ordered, Mike Black said I should have gone to the joint staff.
Yes.
Good Lord said, you're going to go to the air staff, and then we're going to send you to Langley. And then you're going to go to school. You're going to go to the War College in DC, and then you're going to go to White House Comm. So all that stuff happened, and it probably would not have happened like that.
Yes.
If I had done what I thought I should do, and so it was just amazing.
Yeah, amazing indeed. So, 06 for those who don't know, outside of the military, being a colonel is only one promotion away from becoming a general officer or an admiral, a flag officer. Really, looking at your career, sir, it's quite amazing. I think you are a trailblazer. Having all of the assignments you've had in the order you've had them, I don't think anybody else has been able to duplicate it. Some people looking at you may say serendipity, or may just believe that you're simply a lucky man. But what do you attribute your success, your professional success to, sir?
So I attribute it a lot to my upbringing, the foundation that I had from my parents, and I do want to single out my mom, Rutia Black. I mentioned my dad, Colonel retired Clinton J. Black, who passed away a few years ago. But my mom, Rutia Black, who is still living, will be 86 in August. Incidentally, I'll just give her a quick shout out. Mom is an excellent golf player, and she plays golf on Tuesdays in a women's league at Andrews.
Wow.
Mom is an 8-time women's club champion at Andrews Air Force Base, and also had 6 hole-in-ones in her career.
Wow.
But mom, I tell everybody my mom got my appointment to the Air Force Academy because she did all of the work, filled out all the paperwork. You can kind of see a typewriter behind me back before computers. My mom would type all of my application stuff and put it all together. So she got the appointment to the Air Force Academy, and I went in her behalf. Mom is a college graduate. She, set that example at Alabama A&M. So the foundation of my parents, the foundation that I got, from my mentors, my coaches, and my sponsors, the NCO that did the job, and keeping my head on a swivel, and following the steps that have been ordered. all of that, led to my success. Now you have to do your part, as the individual,
Yes.
and that is, get the job done and do excellence in all that you do. And that's what we strive for. That's one of the core values of the Air Force: excellence in all we do. And we strive. I strove for excellence in all that we did, and my team executed that excellence at every single place that I was at. You mentioned, my path and all this, and I do like to highlight this. This is not a brag moment or anything like that, but commanded a combat comm squadron, commanded the 1st Comm Squadron at Langley, and commanded the White House Communications Agency. I believe that I'm the only guy in the Air Force that has done those 3 units, and any one of those, I think, would be a measure of success. Commanding one of those in somebody's career. And the way that my steps were ordered, I had the opportunity to do all 3.
Wow.
Tied to those coaches, mentors, sponsors, head on a swivel, and paying attention and putting all that stuff in my toolbox.
Yes.
And today the toolbox is it's a lot smaller.
Yes. Yes, sir.
A lot of stuff in there. Go ahead.
Well, so first I need to acknowledge your mother went to AAMU, which is a HBCU. I like to acknowledge that, historically Black college and university. I do mentor a few HBCUs, graduate through the UNCF here in San Francisco. I think that's very important to acknowledge. But then I'm going to ask you, sir, with all of your achievement, what keeps you humble? You think?
You talked about my my command philosophy and the 5 F's, my family. I'm super proud of my family. You had shown a couple of pictures of the family with President Obama. You showed the picture of the family at tour of the Air Force One. So married, my wife, 37 years, and 3 kids, and the sacrifices that they made, along the way, to just get things done. That has kept me grounded, and super proud of my wife, Dr. Wilda Black, who's the
say that again, sir.
Yes, Dr. Wilda Black, who is a professor and teaches nursing to folks that are aspiring to be nurses. My oldest daughter, Jordan Black, who is an assistant principal at a middle school, the oldest, who incidentally is getting married in August. Yes, that's Jordan, 3 from the right, and then Clinton right there, and 3 from the left. Clinton is in the Space Force, and then Hannah, who was standing next to President Obama. And there's a little story behind that. Older kids were fighting to stand next to the president, and President Obama said, I'm choosing Hannah. And so Hannah, the baby girl, and Hannah is studying to be a registered dietitian. She has a master's in nutrition. And so the family,
such a blessing,
has kept me grounded. They've made tremendous sacrifices, over the years, and I appreciate what they've done, and that keeps me humble. And then the folks, my team.
That is really powerful. And talking about the family, really, it's not just the service member who's serving the country; it's the entire family, isn't it, sir?
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, the family makes sacrifices throughout, and I can I really can talk about family, and if we have time, I can tell you about one aspect of family where one of the hardest things that I had to do was make a death notification to a family for one of my service members, and that's the hardest thing I had to do in the Air Force and in life, really, is to go make that notification on behalf of the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. In my case, you get one chance to get that right, and you have to go look the next of kin in the eye and basically say, I regret to inform you of the untimely death of your husband, Staff Sergeant Luis Melendez Sanchez, who was the gentleman that was in my unit. And I had to go tell his wife, Michelle, who I'm still in touch with today. And then also had to explain that to two young boys at the time. They were 3 and 5 years old, but they were young at that time. So hardest thing that I had to do, you don't get any training on that. I didn't go through any training, on how to do that. And like I said, you get one chance, and you're representing, in my case, representing the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force, and me and my first sergeant, Dwayne Hillard, Senior Master Sergeant Hillard, a medical professional and chaplain, all went to make that notification.
Wow, that is quite a sacred duty. What was going through your mind, sir?
Really was, I got to get this right. I have to be strong. I have to, I'm a human being, but I have to be strong for the family and let them know. And in this instance, I had to actually do that twice, because the first time his duty status whereabouts were unknown. They had not recovered the body of a mid-air helicopter collision over Africa, and then go back after they just recover the body and say that I regret to inform you. So that was the hardest thing I had to do that. And I had to do that twice in my career. I had to do another notification to a family member that was located in my area near Langley Air Force Base, but the member was stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base in another communications squadron. And my counterpart over there, Kelly Kurtz, at the time, was the commander there, and I had to make a notification to the next of kin in the Tidewater area. So two of the hardest things that I've had to do in my career.
This is one thing I think people in the industry, civilian, don't really understand about the military. What did those experiences teach you, sir?
Say that one more time.
What did those experiences teach you?
That first of all, that taught me that that you just have to get that. You have to get that right. And as a leader, as a commander, that is your responsibility to go do that. And you need to, mentally prepare yourself for that. Hopefully you won't have to do that in your career, but things happen, and you have to be prepared to do that. And incidentally, my wing commander at the time, that now retired Lieutenant General Burtfield, who is also is the president of the Air and Space Association. Again, that goes back to relationships. I stayed in touch with him, throughout the time. But he asked me to provide a teaching session to the rest of the squadron commanders on how I did that notification, so that they would, if they ever had to do it, they could capitalize on any lessons learned that we had. And so we were able to to share that with that. And so I think that also is important with just kind of teaching, coaching, and mentoring, that kind of thing. Share your lessons learned, shorten the learning curve for those that follow.
Well, I guess the last question I'm going to ask about this experience, sir, is how do leaders prepare for moments they really cannot rehearse?
I'm not here to preach to you, but I do pray about that. I have been blessed to be surrounded by an amazing team. I mentioned those senior NCOs and named off a few, and my first sergeant, and the faith that I had, and then paying attention and learning those lessons so that you can apply it, when you're ready. We had a saying at the White House Communications Agency called "Ready to Receive." And when we said ready to receive, that means we had tested everything. We were prepared to receive the President of the United States. And so all of our circuits were tested, all of our comms was tested, and you make that call back to the operations center, location XYZ is ready to receive. Well, in life, you need to be ready to receive, and you need to prepare yourself and gather all this information, this knowledge, this training along the way, so that you are ready to receive when your name is called, when the task is called. If it's going to be early on a Saturday morning and they say, Lieutenant Colonel Black, I need you to go make this next of kin notification, that you've thought about that, thought about what you had to do. You know that you have one chance to get it right. And so you equip all of this stuff in your toolbox. This
Yes.
phone that I mentioned earlier, you can put so much in your toolbox today so that you are ready to receive.
So as you prepare, check the mic and be ready to receive.
No,
That's
absolutely.
powerful.
Check the mic.
Uh,
I thank Lieutenant General Al Edmonds and Lieutenant Colonel Rob Holder for that opportunity. But
yes.
yes, check the mic, be ready to receive. And we have lots of sayings throughout our time in the military, and they apply in life. If you just look, listen, and learn those things, you can see that they apply.
Well, so we almost are running out of time. I could talk to you for hours. I do want to talk at least briefly about your chapter in this book. I believe it's chapter 4.
Yes.
Let's go boom. But before I do need to talk about the 5 F's, if even briefly, because I feel like this could change the life of someone. You said your 5 F's are family, fitness, flying, fairness, and fun.
Yes.
Now, they've become a signature leadership model. Which F do leaders struggle with the most today? And to me, I was surprised to see fun in there. I'm sure there is a story to it.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to say, I mentioned the importance of family, and I don't think people struggle with that. I think that that is important. But to be fair as a leader, it's important to be fair. But equally important, and part of that being fair is being perceived as being fair. So I can think I'm being fair, but if the perception is I'm not fair, and we're going to get into that emotional intelligence a little bit, that's where that comes into play there.
Yes.
You, if you're not fair, that can affect good order and discipline, and I think that's important. But also the perception. So I could think I'm being fair, but if the perception out there is that I'm not being fair, then people are going to operate, based upon their perception. The fun aspect, I think, is just you have to be grounded and you have to take care of yourself. And so for me, the fun is sports. You had that caricature up before. You can see in that caricature, I was I was a big fan of the University of Alabama. Big fan of San Antonio Spurs, who
Obama
just clinched the first round yesterday, and the Washington Commanders and our fraternity Omega Psi Phi. Those are things that are fun to me and be around. So I like to go to professional sports. Whatever you do, you get that relief. You've got to take care of yourself and have an outlet and have fun, even if it's just doing karaoke in the car by yourself and singing. And incidentally, I probably got 150 karaoke songs of just me in my car singing poison and all that other stuff.
Yes. Wow. So in that best-selling book, Bass Go Boom, Volume 2, Feel the Bass, you contributed chapter 4. And what inspired you, your story, and what leadership lesson did you want reader to really walk away with?
Yeah. So Dr. Xavier Bruce, who I had mentioned earlier, who I believe was on here, he put together 4 volumes on this, and the second volume was about emotional intelligence, and that's something that's another superpower that I believe I have, and it's a leader's ability to understand, manage, and apply emotions. And here's the key word: both their own and others. And I just saw Renita Alexander just chime in there. It made me think about something. Let me just digress for 1 second and thank Renita. Renita wrote this book called Just Breathe. One breath at a time, leading myself one breath at a time. And I apply this. I use this in the yoga class.
Wow.
I did it this week, teaching our folks about breathing one breath at a time. But it's focused, conscious breathing, where you're breathing in something a positive and blowing out something negative. And I credit her, in that book, and the folks that are in my Christ Moves Now yoga class.
Yes.
With that, but the book, emotional.
Since you interrupted, quick interruption. Since I am an alumnus of the University of Alabama, roll tide, roll,
roll tide, roll. Yes,
sorry,
I have a lot of Alabama gear, hats and sweatshirts and hoodies and and all that. And my son and I, Clinton, actually went to an Alabama game, and that was a great experience walking through
Quite an experience.
in the neighborhood. But yeah, so emotional intelligence, as I said, not only applying and understanding and managing your own emotions, but understanding those of others and influencing those outcomes to build a trust that we talked about and to achieve mission success. And so, emotional intelligence is a force multiplier. It is emotional intelligence, it says, inspires trust. Emotional intelligence enhances decision making. Emotional intelligence strengthens relationships. We talked about relationships, and emotional intelligence strengthens your performance and your team cohesion. And so, your ability to understand and be able to project upon yourself what others are feeling as a leader, that helped me make the best possible decision. And I think emotional intelligence is hugely important. You put that all together with that intrusive leadership, the command philosophy of the 5 F's, the family, fitness, flying, fairness, fun. Flying is the mission, the primary mission of the Air Force at the time. Fitness, mental, spiritual, and physical fitness, and taking care of that. But you put all that together, you can be successful. And so that's what I did. And I thank Dr. Bruce and the other 9 authors that were able to put that together, and the opportunity. And like I said, there's 4 volumes of that. So 40 chapters on leadership, and his intent is to put that all together into one big book, about there, based upon experiences that folks had. And mine happened to be about emotional intelligence.
That is really, really outstanding. Could you share, sir, a moment where emotional intelligence, not technical expertise, really made the difference?
Sure. The one thing that really comes to mind is my time at the 1st Communications Squadron. I mentioned my first sergeant, Senior Master Sergeant Dwayne Hillard. We had a young airman who was not performing up to par. In my words, looked a little sloppy in his uniform. And, after constant counseling, still was not performing at a level, high enough. And so much so that we were going to, release him from the United States Air Force. We had enough, documentation, if you will, to do that. I remember when we had made the decision to do that, and I'd asked the Senior Master Sergeant Hillard to, go check one last time, make sure we're not missing anything with this individual. And what he discovered was that his wife, the individual's wife, had an illness, and it ended up being terminal, that we didn't know about, and that could have been contributory to his performance and that kind of thing. So I was ready to push the button to release this individual, and it was kind of the last thing. I said, check one last time.
Wow!
And he came back with that, and we put the brakes on. And we took care of that family, made sure that his wife got to experience some of the things that she wanted to experience before she ended up passing away. But that emotional intelligence, I could have just followed the law. I had enough documentation to release this person from the Air Force, and that's what we were going to do. And that's what your hard decisions you have to make as a leader. But that emotional intelligence that both me and my first sergeant had caused us to take another look and understand the bigger picture. And we were able to provide some happiness for that family and his wife instead of releasing him from the Air Force.
Wow. So would you agree that one simple definition of emotional intelligence would be awareness of self and awareness of others, especially those?
No, absolutely. If you had to break that down into just something that simple, yes, being aware of yourself and being aware of others and your surroundings.
Yes.
And this all ties together, with the head on the swivel, so you can see what's going on and understand that. But all of that is important, and it was key to success in all of the organizations and teams that I've been a part of.
And if you were to summarize your chapter in that book, so chapter 4, in one leadership principle, what would it be?
Understanding and knowing your people and knowing your team.
Yeah.
having some empathy
Yes.
to
All
understand
right.
that.
I've already abused your time, sir. If you can give me 5 more minutes, we're gonna
Absolutely.
land this
Yeah.
plan. So for this last segment, I kind of want to get into your head and understand the principles that have helped you be successful as you have been. I guess one question I have, sir, is what do you believe is one of the greatest lessons you've ever learned, whether in life, in leadership, or in general?
Um, I think uh, probably the greatest lesson that I've learned is understanding that I am part of a team, and the team, gets the job done. So it's not the individual.
Mm,
You have individuals that are part of the team, but
yeah.
you're only as strong as your weakest link, if you will. And that kind of thing. That kind of thing.
Yes.
And so having your team, and executing that team, throughout. And we talk about my military time and my military career. I spent
Mm-hmm.
10 years in the private sector, had amazing teammates at the three places that I was at: Premier Management Corporation, JMA Solutions,
Yes.
and Concise Network Solutions. Those three places that I worked for 10 years. And then the amazing team that I have at AFCEA International, the national security and defense team that I have there. They my teams know how to get the job done, and I've just been blessed to be on
Yes.
great teams. And so my job as a leader, again, is to make sure that those folks have the tools, the resources, and the
Mm-hmm.
environment to get done. But your team can do amazing things, and when you have a great team, you have that synergistic effect where one
Yes.
plus one is a lot greater than two. And I've just been blessed to have amazing teams
Mm.
throughout, and amazing teammates.
And I know my one of my recent mentors taught me is that r- r- rank is rented, but trust is earned.
Yes,
For those amazing team you've had, sir, what have you done to build that trust? Because without it, I don't think you can be highly performing. Can
right,
you?
right.
How do you build that?
So I do leadership by walking around and getting
Mm.
to know my folks, and know my team, understand the value and what's important to them. Oh yeah, Renita's fellow Alabama.
Yeah.
That's a nice little shout out there. That's my homegirl. She's from
Yeah.
Alabama as well. A retired Colonel, Renita Alexander.
Wow.
But taking care of the people
Yes.
who take care of the mission, giving those folks the tools, the resources, and the environment to get the job done. I think that is
Mm.
ultimately that's what's been most important to me. And people that know me have heard me talk about this analogy of holding up a big rock, and you have
Mm-hmm.
your hands under the rock, and you think about the cartoon The Flintstones and Bedrock, and just think it. Everybody's got their hand under this big rock, and we're walking to move it from one place to another. If everybody has their hand under the rock and is holding some of that, the
Mm-hmm.
load is going to be lighter for everybody. But
So
if I
true.
have my hands under there and I'm just like have them here, but I'm not pushing, and I'm just
Yes.
in a funk, it's going to be heavier for other folks. And so you got
Yes.
to carry
Yes.
your load. And when you have your team that is carrying the load, you can go further, faster,
Mm.
longer. And so just been blessed to have amazing teammates. Both
Wow.
my time at the academy. I still am in touch with regularly in touch with about 30
Yes.
folks from my academy class. We text, every day and share lessons learned. And we just had a
Mm.
4-year reunion last fall, and it was great to see those folks and reminisce and share, all the things. And this group of about 30 folks, I mean, it's powerful
Wow.
folks. I've got a couple of lawyers, a couple of doctors, a couple of very successful entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
successful military folks, some folks that dabbled in the political aspect of things. But you put all of that together,
Yes.
and this group of folks who are thinking about calling ourselves, Onyx Vanguard. It's just a very powerful group of
Yes.
folks.
Wow. That is quite insightful. So, if you could choose three people to have dinner with, sir, who would you choose and why? Whether they're alive, dead, or fictitious characters.
Wow. Um, I would choose Haile Selassie because of in my time at living in Ethiopia. Um, I would probably choose Greg Popovich, who is the coach of the San Antonio Spurs, or was the coach of the San Antonio Spurs, an amazing leader, also academy graduate. And my dream job would be to be the general manager of the San Antonio Spurs. That's what kind of my connection to the San Antonio Spurs and Coach Popovich. But I love his leadership style, and he built the team based upon character and showed the good guys could win with 5 NBA championships to his credit while he was coaching.
Well, so maybe somebody who knows the owner is listening right now.
I hope somebody is listening. Martin Luther King, President Obama. I mean, you asked me for 3.
Yes.
I put Martin Luther King up there just because of what he stood for and what he's taught. And so I was, not able to, to see him, and do that. So that would be very interesting. And then, having been around President Obama, I would love to, have a one-on-one, dinner with him and his wife, Michelle. I had the opportunity to meet the First Lady as well. But that would be neat to have a dinner, with them, just, them two and me and my wife. That would be amazing.
Wow. So is there maybe a song, a book, or a movie that you would consider like your life's film or anthem?
Wow. A song,
book or movie?
Book or a movie. Well, I like music. I played the saxophone for a very short,
Wow.
for a very short period of time. I took piano lessons right after I retired for a very short period of time. I wanted to be a person that could, could play and sing right now. So there's lots of music that I like.
One song comes to mind, sir.
Yeah. Wow. I talked about being excellent, and so I've been listening, during my cardio workouts to a song by the Gap Band, Charlie Wilson, "Outstanding," and that equates to excellence, and so being outstanding.
Got it.
I like that, and actually, when folks collaborate with artists and put together songs, I think that is extra special. So I've been listening to the collaboration of Charlie Wilson, Pharrell Williams, Justin Timberlake, and Snoop Dogg. Now, 4 different type of folks, but when you put them together and they get to singing, at the very end of the song, Snoop says, "Knock them out of the box, knock them out of the box." So knocking them out of the box, hitting that home run, being outstanding. Is something just comes to mind, because that's what I've been listening to every day that I've been going to the gym and doing my hot girl walk,
that's
1 hour, putting at 15-degree incline and starting out at 3.6 miles per hour and it finishing up at 4.5.
Wow. Fantastic, because we do have a playlist on Apple Music, so I'm going to add "Outstanding" by the Gap Band today.
Yes.
And we already had Intro's Leadership in our digital bookshop, so I'm going to make sure to add The Purpose-Driven Life today. And we started the digital bookshelf, I think it was May of last year, with just a couple of books. Today we have more than 405 books on the bookshelf. It's just amazing how that is going. Okay, thank you so much again for your time. Really do appreciate that. I get to end the show. If you had one and only one day to live, what would you have liked your final contribution to be?
Training my replacements. And I would hope that I equip the people that have to follow me, whether it's my family, whether it's my teammates at work, whether it's my mentees, equipping the next generation and providing them the tools, the resources, and the environment, and shortening the learning curve. Because if I can pass on knowledge to folks and shorten that learning curve, then they can do more because they have more time, because they learned it faster than I learned it. And so I think that's my my duty, my responsibility, connecting, as I said, connector, but absolutely.
Wow. And if you did have a magic wand or something and you could solve any problem in the world, what is the one problem you'd like to solve first thing tomorrow morning?
Peace in the world. If I could cast that wand and have peace throughout the entire world, where the entire world lives in harmony. If I could do that, I would love to be able to shake the wand and say, peace, be still.
That is powerful, because my favorite Bible verse, especially in this time, is Luke 2:52, right? Glory to God in the highest, and peace on earth.
Amen. Peace on earth.
If only we could do that. All right. So we have come to the end of the show, sir. So what can my audience do to add value back to you?
Well, I'm a connector, and so connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's see where the synergy lies. I'm also on other social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Many of those I have the call sign Check the Mic. Bass Go Boom, that book is out there. There are other volumes that are out there. I mentioned Renita's book, Just Breathe, and leave myself one step at a time, one breath at a time, and then Intrusive Leader, Marcus Candy. Those are books that are out there that are powerful pieces of information. I got a classmate that wrote a book on blind attraction, Chris Moreland. These are all part of my library, and I have them, some of them right here, that are key to me. Memory book, Red in Me, about Red Auerbach and Bill Russell. Doing Business by the Good Book by Dave Stewart, the founder of Worldwide Technology. The New Art of the Leader by William Cohen, a retired two-star Army general. That's a book that I gave to all of my, to many of my direct reports.
Yes.
Intrusive Leadership, Just Breathe, Bass Go Boom, and Blind Attraction. There's many others, but those books, and you mentioned Purpose Driven Life. Yep, there's Just Breathe.
Powerful.
So, get those books, learn, put that stuff into your toolbox. I learned from all those people that I just mentioned, those books that I got. And incidentally, the Red and Me book I got from a lady by the name of Karen Britton, who passed away, but she was one of my counterparts at the White House Communications Agency. She was on the White House staff, and I actually was on the team to interview her. And just to break the ice, I said, "Hey, what book are you currently reading?" And she pulled that book out of her purse. And it's a powerful story about all the leadership and success that the Celtics had, and the dichotomy of Wilt Chamberlain and Red Auerbach, two different people from very different backgrounds, came together to build success. And I guest spoke at one of her classes when she was teaching as an adjunct faculty, and Karen Britton gave me that book. So the books are special to me. I see they're special to you. That's how I build my my knowledge and who I am.
Powerful.
So buy those books. Support my friends, the authors that are out there.
Powerful. This is really a great point where we can stop. Is there a question I should have asked you, sir, that I didn't get the chance to ask? Anything else you wanted to share today?
I do just want to give a shout out to you, BZ, and the show that you've put together. I'm the kind of person that does my homework beforehand. And so when you reached out to me, I, not that I didn't trust you. I just said, I said, who is this guy? I reached out to General Larry Spencer, who you had interviewed. I reached out to Marcus Candy, and they all had glowing things to say. And as I did more research on you and your leadership and success podcast. I was just amazed at what you put together and your passion for that. So I want to give a shout out to you and the Leadership and Success podcast and the time and effort that you put together to do this. I don't know where you get all the time to put this together, to integrate the photos, to come up with a run of show and a script. But it is amazing that you put this together. I thank you for allowing me to be on your platform to do this. An honor to be on the same platform as a General Spencer, as a Marcus Candy, as a General Petraeus, and many other folks. And I can say that I've been on the same show as those folks, and that's a Tony moment. Feels good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And the very last question I'm going to ask you, which is quite powerful, if you could go back and give a piece of advice to your 17-year-old self, or your son who looks like your twin brother, standing at the edge of this incredible career you've had, sir, what would you say?
Yeah, I thanks for sharing that picture. Just real quick, Clinton duplicated that stance. I found that picture that I had, and he duplicated it to a T. You can see that he has a little bit more bling than me. My uniform fit, and his uniform fitted. His uniform was fitted. I had issue aviators on. He has Ray-Bans, and he's got like more bling. But if I could, if I could tell my younger self, and I use that picture as a, kind of a younger self, pay attention, keep the head on a swivel, learn as much as you can, cultivate your team. I mean, you said one thing, but these are a lot of things that you can do to make yourself better, and then make your team better, and then train your replacements so that somebody can do the job when you move on to the next job. Continue to train your replacements and have them train their replacements.
Well, sir, you are a colonel. You can answer any way you want. You've earned it right, sir. Thank you so much for being our master teacher today. Really, really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, BZ. Well done.
Thank you. All right, folks. This is one of the longest podcasts we've had. I think I went almost 30 minutes over. I'm really, really grateful the colonel had time to talk to us. But again, get a copy of the book, Just Brave. And we talked about Captain Kennedy, U.S. Coast Guard intrusive leadership, and you can also catch him on an earlier episode of the show, season 5, episode 42, and also the purpose-driven life. So, of course, I also would like for you to get a copy of Bass, Go Boom, Volume 2, Feel the Bass, on the Colonel wrote Chapter 4 on emotional intelligence. Okay, that's all we have for now. Tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., I will be speaking to a 2-star flag officer. Hopefully, you can join me 6 a.m. In California, so 9 a.m. on the East Coast. That's the one interview I have planned. So thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If today's episode added value to your leadership journey, be sure to subscribe, share, and join us again for more wisdom nuggets on how to lead better and achieve greater success. Remember, leadership is the most critical skill of our time. The world will always need leaders to inspire others, drive innovation, and execute meaningful strategy. So why not count yourself among the bold leaders shaping the 21st century? Until next time, stay inspired, stay committed, and keep leading with excellence.